I'm going to call the meeting in order since we have, the first item is to reorg. So I'm going to call the meeting of the, I was going to say operations and capital, but the regional agreement subcommittee to order at 5:45 p.m. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Since we haven't met since last April, and we had an election, and we lost a member from the town of Hanson who was on the board, we need to reorganize, and a member from the school committee that was on the board, we need to reorganize this committee. So the first item of business is the needing of a chair, so I'm open to nominations for chair.
I would nominate Chris Scriven, if he's willing.
I'll second that nomination.
You will?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion around that? All in favor? Great. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
You have the gavel right in front of you. You picked the right seat
Yeah.
and everything. So
Thank you, Chris.
thank
Thank
you,
you
Chris,
all.
for going to do this. So I just, I put the agenda together. So review of the regional agreement. I sent everything to Mars somewhere in June. I spoke with Matt Reed and Steve Hemman a couple of times over the summer, and I said I needed the documents back by the last week of August, knowing that we wouldn't reconvene this team until maybe the second or third week of September, which here we are. And they sent back the documents that I sent after review with some comments and some suggestions. Overall, they said the document was well done. There were a few areas, one area in particular that we left open for them, which was transportation, that I said, you know, it's an open item, but everything else that was in the document said our language was legal. They didn't give this is a good idea or a bad idea, and they said they were willing to consult once we got into it a little bit more. But everything that the committee had done from January onward, by getting some of the items or the issues out there with some consensus already from both boards of the Board of Selectmen in Whitman and the Select Board in Hanson was a good thing. So you have these documents in front of you, and I don't know where you want to go first, because I just, again, put this together. I knew we don't have a member from Hanson from the Select Board here yet, so we're missing a voting member. So just wanted to put out there what we wanted to review, what questions I could answer from my comments with them, and where we go from there.
I guess I could put it out to everybody if you want to review the changes from that Mars has given us. We could read through them.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Right. So starting with representation, right? That would be the first.
Yeah, so the number one response to proposed regional agreement changes dated August 28th, 2023. Number one is representation.
Yeah, and so let me just read their notes then. A proposal to require a 2/3 vote of all school committee votes. This is legal. The law only requires a 2/3 vote to approve the annual budget and to borrow money. And again, that's coming from Mars, their comment. B is proposal to utilize 2/3 vote to change assessment methodology, and they responded that is okay. Proposal to utilize 2/3 vote for utilization of funds, and they responded that is okay. Next section is agreement review. Everybody comfortable with me just reading through this? I feel like that's appropriate.
I have marginal notes on a couple of the Mars, but you can read through, Chris, and then we can come back if you'd rather do that.
I'm open to whatever you guys would prefer. I don't know if you guys want to just me kind of read it into the record kind of thing, and we'll review it, you know, just if anybody following along.
That's fine.
Okay, so number 2 is agreement review, requiring the agreement to be reviewed every 3 years. Proposed language: given the changes in regulations, laws, and members of the various boards and committees, it is necessary to review the regional agreement from time to time. Accordingly, the following review process will be completed in September every 3 years, commencing on the 3rd September after the agreement is signed by the Massachusetts Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education. The review process shall consist of the Hanson Select Board, Whitman Selectmen, and Whitman-Hanson Regional District, the boards, each placing the review of the regional agreement on their respective agendas during the applicable month of September for which the regional agreement is to be reviewed. The board shall take a vote to either confirm that the regional agreement has been reviewed and no further changes are needed, or vote the changes are needed and that a regional agreement committee shall be convened. Upon a vote by any of the boards, the regional school committee shall create a regional agreement committee. It is recommended that the regional school committee consult with the Hanson Select Board and Whitman Board of Selectmen as it pertains to the composition of the regional agreement committee. And their response to this was, this is appropriate language. All right, moving on to the number 3, leases. Proposed language to eliminate the following language from the current regional agreement. Quote, "The committee shall also be authorized to make major improvements, alterations, additions, or capital expenditures to the town-owned schools, but only after notification of the appropriate member town selectmen. Approved projects will not be a part of the district budget." End quote. Their response, there is usually some language that spells out the process for capital project, but this is legal. All right, next section, 4, capital and emergency repairs.
There is a typo here. It should be 5,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's what we talked about,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
One of my questions.
yeah, okay. So, yeah, number 4A, propose to reduce the number over which each town is responsible for capital costs in the elementary and middle schools from 5,000 to 10,000. Their response was, this is okay. B, new language on the emergency repairs. Quote, "An emergency repair shall be defined as a repair not covered by insurance costing greater than or equal to $10,000 that poses an immediate risk to the safety of the district students or staff or threatens the operation of a school building or is required to comply with the law. In the event of an emergency repair, the committee shall notify the appropriate town or towns, including at a minimum the town administrator, that owns the buildings as soon as reasonably practical, but no later than within 72 hours of having knowledge of the need of the emergency repair. The member towns shall be responsible for the cost and reimbursement of the school to the school district." And their response was, this is okay. Number 5 is operating cost methodology, statutory methodology. Proposal to eliminate the following language. Quote, "Special operating costs include costs unique to a particular town for maintaining programs or services. These costs will be borne by the particular town member." By the particular member town. And their response was, this is okay. It is a somewhat unusual provision in the current regional agreement. Do we need to kind of discuss that at all?
I would like to,
Yeah.
because I got lost in what they were asking me.
Okay. You want to speak to that, Jeff?
Not right this point.
Oh, okay, all right.
I think that's something we
All
can
right.
just review.
Sure. All right, number 6 is transportation. Proposal to add the following concept, language to be determined later. And this is something we're going to go over again. So, quote, "As part of the annual budget process, the school committee shall determine busing requirements for the district," end quote. Their response was, this is okay. And then further, on number 6 is subcommittee agreement, quote, "that the financial methodology utilized for transportation, once determined, should be added here in this section." And their response was, good idea. All right, number 7, the Appendix A, school committee membership. All right, but this is their entire response, right, in red?
Yes.
Okay, this is coming from Mars again. The subcommittee added the language from MGL Chapter 71, Section 14E that states the 5 ways a school committee can be elected. The last paragraph speaks to a district-wide election process which allows for predetermined numbers of school committee members from each member town. There is no comment by the subcommittee here to indicate the purpose of adding this section. Superintendent Simonak said that no response is required here.
I just explained to them that this is an issue, and we wanted to put the provisions of how members on the school committee could be elected. If we just labeled the law, it is what it is, and then people can choose with a review of the regional agreement if they so choose to go to the multiple ways school committees can be formed in a regional agreement or in a regional school district. So that's why I said a lot of our old agreement didn't have the 5 provisions.
So this is just no change, it's just
No
stating
change.
the law.
We've never
in case
put
it
this
wanted
in,
to be
yeah.
Done afterwards.
Correct.
Okay. Yep.
So the other document is, they actually did the amended agreement from 20, from June of 2018.
Yeah.
Just made, just different changes. Green is from the, approved from DESI. Blue was just wording to delete. Red was Mar's suggested wording. And this doesn't include anything from here or anything from what we submitted to them. This is just kind of going through the old, or the 2018 agreement that was passed in one town and then recalled and then not in another, but approved by the school committee, and they just wordsmithed it up to make it look better for 2023.
And were I didn't look at this. I'm trying to follow along here.
Sure.
When we had our compromise for
Yeah.
the, go ahead.
In 2020?
Yeah.
That language is, I don't think that's in here, and that's part of the language on this page around operating cost methodology.
Okay.
So it is in here, but it's not spelled out around the compromise.
All right. So it's in here.
Yeah.
It's covered in here. That's what
Yeah.
my question was. Okay.
So,
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, George. Go ahead.
All right, so if I lay these out chronologically, to the left, I have a 6/6/18 amended agreement.
Yep.
That's the one that when, if we go back those 5 years, everybody agreed upon and it went to towns.
yes,
Then I have the 6/18, the June 6, 2018, DESI approved, and then now the Mars
Word
suggestions
mixed
color coded.
correct.
Okay. Then we have what we just went over, which was our group
Yep,
with the updates. Now, is that in the color coded?
it is not,
Okay, that's separate still.
correct.
Okay. I got it. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to be reading now from this June 16th, 2018, original DESI approved, August 28th, 2020, Mars suggestions.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Sorry, I'm always the one talking about what you're reading, right? So sorry about that.
Chris, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So are we going to go through all this and then kind of circle back and then talk about the sections?
That was my intention, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
So maybe I jumped the gun here by starting with this one. I probably should have started chronologically, but,
Okay.
all right, so here I am back to the one I just referenced, all right?
Color
Okay,
coded.
yep, sorry about that. All right, so we all have this document, as George said, green highlight changes from document previously approved by DESI, blue strike through suggesting wording to delete, red letters, Mars suggesting wording to include, and yellow is this document does not include the recommendations of the most recent amendment committee or language recently approved by both member towns. All righty. So between the towns of Whitman and Hanson, Massachusetts, with respect to the regional school district, the agreement entered into pursuant to Chapter 71 of the General Laws of Massachusetts, herein referred to as MGL, as amended between the towns of Whitman and Hanson, hereinafter referred to as member towns, is hereby amended effective, and the date will be inserted there, in its entirety to read as hereinafter set forth. In consideration of the mutual promises herein contained, it is hereby agreed as follows. Now, Section 1, type of regional agreement district. The regional school district, hereinafter referred to as the district, shall include all grades pre-kindergarten through 12, PK to 12. The regional school district committee, hereinafter referred to as the committee, shall have the right to establish adult evening education courses. The committee is hereby authorized in its discretion to establish and maintain all required or authorized educational programs or offerings, including but not limited to vocational programs under MGL Chapter 74. Okay, so so they suggested basically just referring to ourselves as the committee going forward. Go ahead, George.
Do we have to include our post-grad program in this?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure because it says PK to 12.
Right, but we have students that go to 22, so I'm not sure where they rank.
Okay. Good pickup. Okay.
Okay, Section 2, the Regional District School Committee, A, powers, duties, and composition. Number 1A, the powers and duties of the district shall be vested in and exercised by a regional school district committee, and this is where they deleted here and, okay, referred to as committee. The committee shall consist of 10 members based on the population of the member towns At the time of the amending this regional agreement, 6 members will be from Whitman and 4 members will be from Hanson. B, each member must reside in the town which he or she represents. Each member must be elected consistent with the process for the election of town officials in said town and will be elected to open seats during the annual elections in said town. Each member will serve each member will serve a 3-year term with the term staggered so that at least 1 member representing each member town will be elected each year. The term of each elected member will begin on the first business day after his or her election and after being sworn in by the representative town clerk. A member who has not otherwise vacated his or her seat will continue to serve until his or her successor is elected and sworn. Go ahead, George.
Sorry, I don't mean to be that guy.
I'm no problem at all.
What if we have a member who does not identify
I was thinking the
was thinking
exact
the
same
same
thing.
as a he or she?
I think that just throughout the document, you're gonna have to just use
Might
that.
be singular that.
Yep.
I don't think you do he or she, I just think that
Right,
you just do
singular
that.
they, or person, said person, or
Yeah, person, yeah,
something.
Okay.
yeah,
There's probably some Mars guidance on
yes,
Yeah.
gender neutrality.
yes.
Okay, you can ask the next 2 questions. That's too
No,
bad.
but you got me, like, that was what I was
Keep them
thinking.
coming, George.
All right,
All right, where was I now? It was
2. You're at number
C.
2.
Yeah, see,
C, okay. Each member of the committee shall have 1 vote, and each vote shall be of equal weight unless and until a shift in the respective populations of the member towns. Based on the most current United States decennial census estimates or 5 years in between, based on the state census. If a population shift causes an impermissible disparity based on the 1 person, 1 vote principle, the committee will act to address the disparity by either adjusting the number of committee members or weighting the votes. Okay, now we're on number 2 of section 2. A majority of the members of the committee shall constitute a quorum, but a lesser number may adjourn. Number 3, the committee shall have all the powers and duties conferred and imposed upon the school committee by MGL as amended and conferred and imposed upon it by this agreement and any special laws. All right, everybody good? Now we're moving on to B under section 2, right? Yep. If a vacancy occurs among the members elected under sections 1A, 1B, and 1A, 1C, acting jointly, the board or selectmen, herein referred to as the selectmen, and the remaining committee members from the towns concerned shall within 30 calendar days appoint a member to serve until the next election, at which time a successor shall be elected to serve for the balance of the unexpired term, if any. And, okay, so they just made a correction then for the days, okay.
Just one
Go ahead, George, yeah,
Sorry.
please.
I do believe that Hanson refers to.
the select board,
Select
right?
their
board.
select board, and I think Whitman, I'm not sure.
Are you
what Whitman
moving to
is.
that?
We'll be considering it at the May annual town meeting.
So right now, it should still say selectmen if this
Yep.
were to move forward?
Right now, it would still be selectmen for Whitman.
Okay, thanks.
But would you change it to say select board / selectmen,
You
since
could-
they are 2 separate things?
I would do that
Okay.
at this point.
You could probably do the one parenthetical here after described as select board.
Yep,
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
yes.
That was B. Okay. All right, C. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed a note here, team to be in calendar. Okay, that was just for the days, yeah. All right, so C, organization. At the first regular meeting of the committee following the last town election held in each year, the committee shall organize and choose by ballot a chairperson and vice chairperson from its own membership in alignment with open meeting law. Was there comment, I think, right?
That's what Jesse fills in.
Changes, yeah.
We had discussed getting rid of the ballot.
Yes.
Maybe the school committee discussed it, not this committee, but at
Yeah.
some point, yeah. It seemed unusual that we've never done it.
Right, it's always been by,
So we can
Vote.
scratch that.
Hand vote, yeah.
Just organized by roll call vote?
okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, at the same meeting or at any other meeting, the committee shall appoint a treasurer and a secretary who may be the same person but who need not be members of the committee. choose such other officers as it deems advisable, determine the terms of the office of its officers, except the chairperson, who shall be elected annually as provided above, and prescribe the powers and duties of any of its officers, fix the time and place for its regular meetings, and provide for the calling of special meetings. The chairperson will appoint members to serve on subcommittees annually. Okay, moving on to Section 3. Schools, Regional School District. I'm sorry, Section 3 is location of the regional district. Then we get on to schools, which is A, Regional School District. Pupils in grades 9 through 12 shall attend Whitman-Hanson Regional High School, located within the district. Pupils in pre-kindergarten through 8, PK through 8, shall attend schools located in their towns of residence, except on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools and by vote of the committee.
So
Go
we
ahead.
have to
Yeah.
change that.
Yeah.
So our pre-K is here.
But the way that I'm reading this suggests that all pre-K students in the district will attend here. Like it's application, right? Like all pre-K students in Whitman and Hanson do not attend this preschool. We have a certain number of spots, right?
Every preschool student right now registered attends here.
But what I'm saying is there are preschool age students
That are-
in the town
that are not
who
registered
are
students,
not
though.
registered here.
Right.
Okay.
And we could say, because they're
So I
technically not our students.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So it seems more inclusive than it is. I
Yes.
don't know if I'm,
Right. No, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
You could say the same sentence, but before that, put something like, those students who attend preschool,
It's located at the high school.
it is located at the high school.
yeah, some kind of
The remaining
quantifier.
pupils in kindergarten through 8th grade attend schools in their towns of residence,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, thanks.
All right, so that was, yeah. Okay. In addition, if a school described in Section 3B should become unusable because of damage or other cause, the committee may vote to use a school in the other member town on a temporary emergency basis until facilities become available in the member town of residence of the pupils. Okay. All right, Section B, lease of the elementary and middle schools. The town of Whitman and the town of Hanson are each hereby authorized to lease to the district buildings, facilities, grounds, equipment, and educational materials. Each lease shall be for a term of at most 20 years, and that was a change from them, from
Yeah,
lease
I
to
asked that specific, and both Steve and Max said the leases have to be at most 20 years.
Okay.
Because I thought, oh, we could do a 50-year. He's like, no, at most 20-year leases.
So how does that work with the middle school project? We needed a 50-year lease.
50-year lease, right. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's my next question to MSBA, because that's what we went over for a month
Yeah.
in the summer 2 years ago.
That took 6 months to resolve.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next paragraph. The leases may contain provisions for extension in accordance with provisions under MGL Chapter 71, Section 14C as amended. The town of Whitman and the town of Hanson shall receive no rent for the leases. The leases shall contain provisions authorizing the district to make minor repairs and minor improvements or alterations to the building or any part thereof. The district shall pay all ordinary expenses of maintaining and operating the buildings and keeping them in good repair during the terms of the leases. The committee shall also be authorized to make major improvements, alterations, additions, or capital expenditures to town-owned schools, but only after notification of the appropriate member town selectmen. Approved projects will not be a part of the district budget. Nothing contained in the leases shall prevent the committee from permitting the use of the buildings or premises by the town of Whitman or the town of Hanson. Each lease involving a member town shall be on such other terms as may be determined by the selectmen thereof and the committee, who shall execute the lease for the member town and the district respectively. Okay, number 3, the district shall insure at its expense the buildings so leased. Details of such insurance shall be determined by the committee after consultation with the selectmen of the town owning the buildings. All right, letter C, termination of leases. In the event of the withdrawal of a member town from the district, the leases mentioned in Section 3B shall be determined on the effective date of such withdrawal. Okay, we good. Moving on to Section 4, budget. Okay, A, budget. The committee shall annually determine the district's budget consistent with the timelines, terms, and requirements of MGL Chapter 71, Section 16B, as amended, and other pertinent provisions of law, and consistent with regulations promulgated by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, herein after referred to as DESE. All right. B, public budget hearing and budget approval. After conducting a public hearing consistent with MGL Chapter 71, Section 38N, as amended, the committee, by a minimum 2/3 vote of all its members, shall annually approve an operating budget for the next fiscal year to maintain and operate the district. After deducting the amount of aid the district is to receive, the balance shall be apportioned among the member towns in accordance with Section 5. The budget will be itemized in such detail as the committee may deem advisable. Such budget shall be adopted not later than 45 days prior to the earliest date on which the business session of the annual town meeting of any member town is to be held, but in no event later than March 31st, provided that said budget need not be adopted earlier than February 1st. The amount so apportioned for each member town shall be certified by the district treasurer to the treasurers of the member towns within 30 days from the date on which the annual operating budget is adopted by the committee. The annual budget, as adopted by a 2/3 vote of the committee, must be approved by a simple majority vote at both town meetings. If the committee votes to increase the district budget after the assessments have been appropriated by the member towns, the committee shall notify the selectmen in each member town within 7 days. No increase in the budget shall be effective until the expiration of 45 days after such notification, during which time the selectmen of any member town may call and hold a town meeting for the purpose of expressing disapproval of the increase in the district budget. And if at such meeting a majority of the voters present in voting thereon express disapproval of the budget increase, such increase in the budget shall not be effective, and the committee may prepare another proposal for a budget increase. Good in that one. Moving on to Section 5, apportionment and payment of costs incurred by the district. Section A, classification of costs. For the purpose of apportioning assessments by the district to the member towns, costs shall be divided into 4 categories: operating costs, capital costs, debt, and transportation costs. The committee shall determine the amount necessary to meet the annual operating, capital, debt, and transportation needs, and shall allocate such amount among the member towns. Okay, so Section B, operating costs. 1, operating costs shall include all costs except capital, debt, and transportation costs as defined in Section 5, C, D, and E, but shall include interest on temporary notes issued by the district in anticipation of revenue. Number 2, apportionment of operating costs. The operating cost to a member town will equal the minimum local contribution and any other operating costs above the minimum local contributions referred to in this section as above, quote, above minimum contribution, end quote. The aggregate above minimum contribution is arrived at by subtracting from the operating budget the following: Chapter 78, the minimum required combined local contributions of all member towns, and other general revenue sources to the district. This formula is illustrated below. Operating budget, which excludes capital, debt, and transportation. So minus Chapter 78, as calculated by DESE, minus minimum required combined local contributions of all member towns, as calculated by DESE, minus other general revenue sources to the district, and it equals total above minimum contribution for all member towns. You on that? Okay. To determine each member town's proportionate share of the aggregate above minimum contribution, it shall be determined based on the ratio of pupil enrollment, including out-of-district pupils in all member towns in the district on October 1st of the preceding fiscal year for which the apportionment will be assessed. All right, number 3, under operating costs, the total operating costs assessed to each member town will consist of the member town's minimum local contribution and the town's share of above minimum local contribution to be determined on the ratio of residents' pupil enrollment in all member towns in the district, including other district pupils, on October 1st of the preceding fiscal year for which the apportionment will be assessed. All right, capital cost is next. Number 1, capital cost shall include all expenses described in DESI's chart of accounts in the 7000 function code, and as may be modified by DESI from time to time. All right, again, that goes back to green changes previously approved by DESI. Number 2, apportionment of capital costs. Capital costs will be apportioned for the ensuing fiscal year as follows. Each member town's share of the capital costs shall be determined by computing the ratio which the sum of its residents, resident pupil enrollment in all member towns in the district, including out-of-district pupils, on October 1st of the fiscal year immediately preceding the year in which the committee votes to include capital costs in the budget bears to the sum of the pupils residing in the member towns and receiving education at the district's expense on October 1st of the same preceding fiscal year. Everybody good with that one? Okay. Number 3, elementary schools and middle schools. Each member town shall be responsible for paying the capital costs as detailed in Section 3B for its respective elementary and middle schools. As relates to the elementary and middle schools in each town, capital costs shall include but not be limited to such expenses described exceeding $5,000. And this is a previous note that was approved by DESI. An article will be presented to the Selectman's office of the town for which capital improvements are requested. Approval of the voters will be required in order for the work to proceed. All right, number 4 on the capital costs, high school. The high school is owned by the district, therefore, capital costs for the high school will be apportioned to member towns according to Section 5C2 above. Everybody good with that one? Okay, moving on to D, debt. Number 1, debt shall include the payment of principal of and interest on bonds, notes, or other obligations of the district to finance such debt. Number 2, under debt. Each member town shall be responsible for paying the debt incurred for its respective elementary and middle schools pursuant to Section 5C3 above. Otherwise, each member town's share of the debt incurred for capital costs associated with the high school, including the payment of principal of and interest on bonds, notes, or other obligations of the district to finance such debt, shall be determined by computing the ratio which the sum of its residents' pupil enrollment, including out-of-district pupils in all member towns in the district on October 1st of the fiscal year immediately preceding the year in which the member towns vote to authorize the incurring of the debt bears to the sum of the resident pupil enrollment, including out-of-district pupils in all member towns in the district on October 1st of the same preceding fiscal year, and the ratio shall not be changed during the period in which such bonds, notes, or other obligations are outstanding, except as provided in Section 6. Apportionment of district-wide debt shall be determined by computing the ratio of a member town's pupil enrollment to the total pupil enrollment in all grades from pre-kindergarten through 12, PK through 12, of pupils residing in the member towns and receiving education at the district's expense. Good with that one. Going on to E, transportation. The district will provide pupil transportation for students who live more than 1.5 miles from the school, which they attend as pursuant to the laws and regulations of the Commonwealth. The amount of Chapter 70 transportation reimbursement will be subtracted from the cost of pupil transportation, and this amount will be assessed to the towns based on pupil enrollment in all member towns in the district on October 1st of the preceding fiscal year for which the apportionment will be assessed. Next paragraph, the cost of pupil transportation for students who live less than 1.5 miles from the school which they attend will be paid by the town in which the pupil lives. The percentage of the total of pupils being transported less than 1.5 miles from each member town will be multiplied by the total cost and billed to each member town. Good with that? Okay. F, times of payment and apportioned costs. Number 1, the total assessment to a member town will equal the total of the operating capital debt and transportation assessments. Number 2, each member town shall pay to the district in each year its appropriate share certified as provided in Section 5B, C, D, and E of the operating capital debt and transportation costs. The annual share of each member town shall be paid in equal installments not later than the first day of August, November, February, and May of each fiscal year. Pretty good?
So I know that was a topic about that. I couldn't find it in my notes anywhere, but I know we talked about a different time frame, and I think we just plugged that in. But again, I just didn't, it wasn't in my notes to send tomorrow, so.
Well, I think what happened was this one's taken off the docket once it got recalled and not passed.
Right.
So I think the original 91 said July.
I think you're right.
So I think they tried to address it
Yeah.
by putting it in August at this time, if my memory serves.
It was either July or April. One of the months was,
Yeah, so I think we just have to check that piece, because it looks like they tried to fix that issue in this one.
John, do you remember what we talked about?
Well, I think they lined it up to where this is the town, where the quarterly payments that towns get.
Right.
It's August, November, February, and May.
I do remember that discussion.
Right.
For sure.
I don't think it was like that before. I'm drawing a blank on what it said price.
there's 1 month where it's always kind of
Yeah.
confusing, where we haven't got the tax revenue in yet, so it's difficult to make
I
a.
think it may have been April to May, but I'm not sure.
Okay, we can make that modification.
Yeah.
All right, Section 6, incurring of debt. The committee may vote to incur debt consistent with the terms and conditions of MGL Chapter 71, Section 16 as amended. At the time of taking action to incur debt, and except for the incurring of temporary debt in anticipation of revenue, the committee, by 2/3 vote, will choose either the process, what's that supposed to say? The process
Well, that
that appears in
Yeah.
MGL Chapter 71, Section 16D or 16N as amended, not later than 7 days after the date on which the committee authorizes the incurring of debt, other than temporary debt in anticipation of revenue to be received from the member towns. Written notice of the date of said authorization, the sum authorized, and the general purpose or purposes for authorizing such debt shall be given to the selectmen in each member town. Debt may be incurred by the district if approved by the member towns in accordance with the committee's chosen method under MGL Chapter 71, Section 16D or Section 16N. Pretty good. Okay. Section 7, amendments. A is limitation. This agreement may be amended from time to time in the manner herein after provided, but no amendment shall be made which shall substantially impair the rights of the holders of any bonds or notes or other evidence of indebtedness of the district then outstanding, or the rights of the district to procure the means for payment thereof, providing that nothing in this section shall prevent the admission of a new town or towns to the district and the reapportionment accordingly of the capital costs of the district represented by bonds or notes of the district then outstanding and of interest thereon. That's a mouthful.
Did a good job with that.
All right. B, procedure. Any proposal for amendment except a proposal for the amendment providing for the withdrawal of a member town, which shall be acted upon as provided in Section 9, may be initiated by vote of the committee or by a petition signed by 10% of the registered voters of any one of the member towns. In the latter case, said petition shall contain at the end thereof a certification by the town clerk of such member towns as to the number of registered voters in said town according to the most recent voting list and the number of signatures on the petition which appear to be the names of registered voters of said town, and said petition shall be presented to the secretary of the committee. In either case, the secretary of the committee shall mail or deliver a notice in writing to the selectmen of each of the member towns that a proposal to amend this agreement has been made and shall enclose a copy of such proposal, without the signatures in the case of a proposal by petition. The selectmen of each member town shall include in the warrant for the next annual or special town meeting called for a purpose an article stating the proposal. Okay, next paragraph. Such amendment shall take effect upon its acceptance by all of the member towns, acceptance by each town to be by a majority vote at a town meeting as aforesaid, and by the Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education, hereinafter referred to as the Commissioner. The defeat of such proposal shall prevent the resubmission of the same or similar proposal for a period of 1 year. Okay, next section, Section 8, admission of additional towns. Okay, A, by an amendment of this agreement adopted under and in accordance with Section 7 above, any other town or towns may be admitted to the district upon adoption as therein provided of such amendment and upon acceptance at a special or annual town meeting by a majority vote by the town or towns seeking admission of the agreement as so amended. Acceptance by a minimum of the 2/3 of the member towns, each by a majority vote, and also upon compliance with such provisions of law and regulations, in other words, Code of Massachusetts Regulations, herein referred to as CMR. In other words, CMR Section 603, 41.05, 6, as amended, as may be applicable in such terms as may be set forth in such amendment. All right, how am I doing?
Some water yet?
Yeah, right. We can't offer any water, Fred outlawed it. All right, B, the committee, prior to the admittance of a new member town, will have the option of establishing an additional amount to that new member town to be included in the district. This additional cost will be clearly articulated to a regional planning committee of the potential new member towns and will be made clear to the voters prior to that new member town's vote on admission to the district. All right, C. A new member town may be admitted to the district as of July 1st of any fiscal year, provided that all requisite approvals for such admission, including the commissioner's approval, shall be obtained no later than the preceding December 31st. Good with that section? Okay, we're going on to section 9, withdrawal. A, limitation. The withdrawal of a member town from the district will result in the dissolution of the district and may be affected by an amendment to this agreement in the manner herein provided by this section. Any member town seeking to withdraw shall, by vote of an annual or special town meeting, request the committee to draw up an amendment to this agreement setting forth the terms by which such town may withdraw from the district, provided, 1, that the town seeking to withdraw shall remain liable for any unpaid operating costs which have been certified by the district's treasurer to the treasurer of the withdrawing town, including full amount so certified for the 1 year in which such withdrawal takes effect. And 2, that the said town shall remain liable to the districts for its share of the indebtedness other than temporary debt in anticipation of revenue of the district outstanding at the time of such withdrawal, and for the interest thereon, to the same extent and in the same manner as though the town had not withdrawn from the district, except that such liability shall be reduced by any amount which such town has paid over at the time of withdrawal and which has been applied to the payment of such indebtedness. Okay, go with that one. Section B, letter B, procedure. The clerk of the member town seeking to withdraw shall notify the committee in writing that such town has voted to request the committee to draw up an amendment to the agreement, enclosing a certified copy of such vote. Thereupon, the committee shall draw up an amendment to the agreement, setting forth such terms of withdrawal as it deems advisable, subject to the limitation contained in section 7A. The secretary of the committee shall mail or deliver a notice in writing to the selectmen of each member town that the committee has drawn up an amendment to the agreement providing for the withdrawal of a member town, enclosing a copy of such amendment. The selectmen of the non-withdrawing member town shall include in the warrant for the next annual or special town meeting, call for the purpose of an article less than 1 full year after the approval by the non-withdrawing member town. Oh, I skipped a line, I'm sorry. Let me back up here. I'm going to start again. Selectmen of the non-withdrawing member town shall include the warrant for the next annual or special town meeting, call for the purpose of an article, the terms of withdrawal. Such amendment shall become effective on July 1st, no less than 1 full year after the approval by the non-withdrawing member town. Acceptance by each member town to be a majority vote at a town meeting as aforesaid and after approval of the commissioner no later than the preceding December 31st. Go with that one. All right, letter C, obligations of member towns. In addition to the other terms and requirements which the committee shall include in the amendment, the member towns will be responsible for the following. 1, payment of all operating costs for which member towns are liable as a member of the district. 2, continuing payments beyond the time of dissolution, and for interest thereon to the district for the member town's share of indebtedness of the district which is outstanding at the time of such withdrawal, and for interest thereon to the same extent and in the same manner as though each town had not withdrawn from the district. And 3, other liabilities incurred during all times that each town was a member of the district. Okay, so OPEB, this is an example of OPEB, other post-employment benefits. All expenses related to the dissolution of the district will be borne by the member town which initiates the dissolution of the district. Okay, D, approval withdrawal. A request to withdraw shall become effective only if the amendment to the agreement is approved by majority vote of the committee, is approved by majority vote in an annual or special town meeting in the member towns, is approved by the commissioner, and the dissolution of the district can only become effective on a July 1st, no less than 1 full year after the completion of these requirements. Okay, E, cessation of terms of withdrawing member towns. Upon the effective date of dissolution of the district, the terms of office of all members serving on the committee shall terminate. All right, letter F, payments of certain capital costs made by a withdrawing town. Okay. Money encumbered from the member towns for payment of obligations as outlined in section 9C above shall be used only for such purpose, and until so used shall be deposited in a trust which is established at the time of dissolution. Is that me or is that wording wrong? Shall be used only
Until
for...
so used.
Did I read it wrong?
No?
No.
Just the inflection.
Oh, so, it's
You read it
okay.
perfectly, Chris.
All right. My inflection was off. All right, letter G, division of assets. Both towns will be entitled to any assets that need to be divided between the towns to be negotiated between the committee and member towns selectmen. All right. Now, section 10, tuition students. The committee may accept for enrollment in the district pupils from towns other than the member towns on a tuition basis and on such terms as it may determine. All right. And then just get into the signatures and whatnot.
That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. And so then what else do we want to?
So that was what we sent in 18 that was approved with some now modifications. And again, this document doesn't include anything we spoke about last spring.
So, I have a question. So, I have a couple of questions, actually. One for this committee, how we move forward, but 2 is, would it be prudent, and I'm not a voting member, but that's something we have to clear up, would it be prudent to possibly think about moving forward with the suggestions made by the August 2023 Mars edits, so that what we talked about today, that you were taking notes on, selecting whatever, like we could just go from here. Meaning that we would then have to lay on top of that what this committee did last year, all those pieces, and then the Mars document, because they actually ask a couple of other questions. But I think it would set to rest the 18 one that was given, not given, put away, taken off by recall and all of those. And I'm just saying that if so, then I also think we have to talk about who votes on this committee and what does that mean? Because the last time we had 4 votes. There were 2 from Hanson, 2 from Whitman. Selectmen, school committee, selectmen, school committee. But I'm not sure if we just did that when we voted you chair. So I don't know what we took. You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure that as we have a new committee, I think we should just talk about those pieces.
Sure.
And if we get the votes done first, who votes, then maybe we could move to the second one and have a basis if we leave it tonight with,
I see.
this is our working document.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm open to any discussion on the makeup of our voting members. Anybody have any comments on that, suggestions?
I think when the committee was established to be, have advice from a lot of members, but to be small when it takes the votes, that it was the right call. We should probably continue to move forward with the 2 school committee members and 1 select board from each town.
And I just add that sometimes the contention between the 2 towns is 6 versus 4, and here it's each town has an equal say in anything that is considered to be changed. It'll be brought before the full school committee anyway, but I'm comfortable
Yeah.
with sitting here contributing my say, but not having to raise my hand one way or the other.
Because all we have, like, even if we take a vote out of here, it still has to be voted on by both school committees, or by the school committee, and then ultimately approved by the towns. So like, we don't really hold that much power. You know, we hold the power to move it out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
So right now, I'm the only one from Hanson representing. We have a select board, but unfortunately, none of them can attend on Monday nights. So if we continue to meet, I will be the only representative
Oh,
from Hanson.
Hillary,
School committee.
yeah. Oh, as the town.
Right, from the
Okay.
town. If this board can find a different day to meet on, then we would be most likely able to get somebody. But Mondays, nobody can commit. Obviously, Tuesdays, neither town can do. So Wednesday, Thursday.
We couldn't work around that before this, today, though? They didn't respond or something? or-
It was, nobody could attend, and I said, we set a date for a meeting for us to discuss, because I'm not going to say, okay, we'll unilaterally change it to Thursdays or Wednesdays without having this conversation around the table.
Was anybody from Hanson on it, like, previous to today? Was a select board member on
Jim.
it?
We
Jim Hickey.
did, but he's no
Gotcha.
longer a select board member. Right.
So just to, I checked on the process once this comes out of subcommittee. So the recommendation is you finalize it with the subcommittee, this document. It's a good document. We send it to district legal. It kicks it back for school committee review and revisions. If school committee review has revisions, it kicks back to the subcommittee. If not, it goes to the select boards and their legal for review, which then, if they approve, it goes back to the school committee for review and authorized to send to DESI. Once DESI reviews it and approves it, there are no changes. It's a yay or nay at town meeting, okay? So nothing can be changed on the floor at town meeting. It's a yay or nay on this document. So that's why the legwork up front, to get it out of here, to get it through, everybody's in agreement, and I think that was the consensus idea last year, is select board, selectmen, school committee, all on the same page before we send it to DESI, because once the commissioner approves it, and there's not going to be major changes based upon our July 2020 agreement to move to the statutory method, probably won't be much in there. He'll approve it, and then it goes to that town meeting, whichever is cleaner, if we can get it by May. If not, it'll be a special in 2024, in October, potentially. So it's a process here, but just to let you know, even it goes to school committee, and then it's going to go to the select boards, and then kick back to the school committee and the subcommittee as we muddle through this.
So my thinking is, without representation from the Hanson Select Board, we probably shouldn't make any decisions.
I think if what we could do is I could send this document that we read to Mars to include into this document here for this committee to review. Again, the only outstanding piece that I think we had as a dangling chat is the transportation piece. I could send this again to them to send, so as George said, to overlay it in with all the right language. They'll kick it back within 30 days to us. But I think you're 100% right. I don't want to have a conversation about transportation without Hanson, FinCom, or select person being here.
Yeah.
So.
And Mars, if I could, Mars, on their response to what they did does kind of clean up the next steps for us
Yes.
if we agree. Like if we agree, they could put that in, and then they could go from there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Chair, if we want to just look at
Sure.
the August 28th memo that they sent, just to say, maybe a course of action.
Is it this one? This one. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so this is, the August 28th of this year, from Mars to Jeff. We have reviewed the document, Whitman-Hanson Regional Agreement Committee, quote unquote, last updated 4/15/23. As I mentioned on the phone, it does not appear that there is anything illegal with the recommendations of that subcommittee. We have also individually reviewed the regional agreement dated June 6, 2018. This version appears to be very similar to the last version from 3/24/20 that you forwarded to us. The 3/24/20 version has 4 sections that have been revised from the 6/6/18 approved by DESI. We assume that these were done by the recent Regional Amendment Committee. We have made a few wording suggestions that do not change the intent of any language in order to clarify a sentence. We will be sending you the 2 documents, in other words, our notes in response to the Amendment Committee document and the marked up 3/24/20 regional agreement. Again, we did not find anything that appears illegal or unacceptable to DESI. We have 2 questions related to helping you bringing this project to a point where you can present it to the Regional School Committee. Number 1, would you like us to make the changes recommended by the Regional Agreement Committee in the 3/24/20 version of the regional agreement? The Agreement Committee stated, quote, "Discussion was that the financial methodology utilized for transportation, once determined, should be added here," end quote. We could suggest some language to clarify this issue. We would also include the amended language approved by both towns in July 2020, related to section 4E of the 1991 regional agreement. Number 2, if yes to number 1, would you like us then to communicate with DESI to make certain that these changes are acceptable as written? DESI did approve of the entire 6/6/18 regional agreement, so hopefully the latest changes from the Amendment Committee will not require a lot of discussion. Okay. Please let us know if we can provide you the next steps in the process. We would like to set up
Google Meet.
a Mars Google Meet with you to discuss these issues. So again, that's coming from Mars to Jeff, asking for their advice on our agreement.
So they're willing to kind of take what we have, what we've worked on, utilize what we talked about, and what they're referring to is the amendment to the agreement back in 2020 when we were moving forward in that April, May, June, July, which was approved, and add that to this document and clean that up. So they can take what we've already made modifications to, put that in the agreement, and bring that back. And again, they're open to a meet for us as well. I spoke to them. They're both retired superintendents, so they're flexible in their hours as well. They probably won't travel out here. They could if we wanted an in-person. They've done it before. But they just want to make it as clean as possible and as less labor intensive for us because we already have the bones from 2018.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, Lisa? Yeah.
So just by looking at this, I just want to make sure, and again, where we have the language in a couple of different areas regarding the minimal contribution, where it's stating that they're going to assess by the pupil enrollment. Isn't that kind of going back to the alternative method with what we were doing before with the pupil enrollment? No? Okay, all right, just want to make sure.
No, that's one of the misconceptions about it.
That we're still doing the statutory method.
It explicitly states that it's the minimum local contribution plus, and then the per pupil.
Okay, all right, so I missed that language. Okay, and then second of all, when we circle back around to transportation, so this is a situation that we were not really aware of, or neither town dealt with, that has now come to light regarding vocational transportation to Norfolk Aggie and Bristol Aggie. Because before, we had minimal students. It really wasn't a big deal. But now we have Bristol Aggie students, we have Norfolk Aggie students, and myself and Mayor Beth Carter and Kathy Keith were in turmoil trying to figure out transportation for Norfolk Aggie students and Bristol Aggie students. And we had parents who were literally freaking out, calling us constantly. What's my kid's bus schedule? When am I going to find out? Who's picking them up? What time? What's going on with this? How much is going to, I mean, it was Kathy, Keith, and myself, we spent days and hours. Basically in Hanson, I couldn't really do any other work. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be something that the schools can help us with to figure this out. providing transportation. And where we're arranging it and paying for it out of our funds, under DESE, there is a method of reimbursement for vocational transportation. And again, I guess we have to learn it to figure it out, how they have, looks like they have a memorandum of understanding that we signed, but I don't know any of that. And so then now I have to take time to learn how to figure all that out. So, you know, it would just work better if we could work together on that. It would, I mean, Whitman has 2 brand new people, and they were just, what do we do with this? You know, and luckily I had some experience with it last year when we had one Bristol Aggie student. But I think it's going to continue to increase as these students go to these separate schools, and parents calling Norfolk and Bristol and Silver Lake and then Abington, and then they're told, oh, call the towns. So they call us, and we have no answers for them. We're trying to get a hold of the first student who's not returning our calls. We're trying to send emails who we're not getting any responses back. So we're in a position where we can't help people, and so you got mad parents, you know, we're back and forth. So I'm bringing it up now because we didn't know about it before. We know about it now. And going forward, it's not something that's going to end, because these schools are getting out there, they're offer programs that kids are interested in now. We're probably going to see more and more of this.
Right.
But wouldn't Hanson be a part of those regional, so like South Shore Voc Tech, Hanson's a part of that region, but not those other ones, so that's the complication there.
The wrinkle is, as a member of South Shore Voc Tech, the town of Whitman, town of Hanson are on their school committee.
Right.
And it's all around funding, because I have no control over vocational funding. So.
Agricultural schools, yeah.
For any vocational school outside of, I don't have any.
Outside of our region.
So I would love to say, yeah, at least I could help, but I could get you a bus for $25,000 right now, and I can't appropriate those funds. But I understand, at least we've been on the phone. Transportation's tried to assist, but it's that all I get from a vocational, and this is something to talk about because it's different. Any student that is applying to vocational school, I have, as a superintendent of that student being in district here, I approve or disapprove. And if I disapprove, I have to give a reason why. And financials are not a reason for that. So they're approved, and then it kicks back to the conversation or communication that I can give Lisa is, hey, you're going to have 7 students or you're going to have 6 students. And I don't know that until August, because they apply and they don't accept, or they have an opportunity to pick and choose. So this is an issue, and I appreciate you bringing it up. I don't have a solution, but we can have that conversation. And it's going to involve adding an agreement, again, if our transportation department's going to absorb that piece of it, those funding sources, I can't appropriate, or where that's going to come from as we build it out. I just learned around, because it's a town, in Abington, it comes from the school department to set this up because it's their student, and the whole town is together. So expenses for vocational students from Abington come out of the town budget, which then inflicts, it just doesn't, they don't pay for it through the school budget, but it's one department. Here, I've got 2 different towns doing 2 different things. So I think it's worth the conversation.
That sounds like it might be a subset of transportation. We have a couple things to talk about in transportation.
Yeah.
One of them might be how we bus up the students within the district or whatever that is. The second one might be how do we handle...
Special circumstances.
Yeah, how do we handle other circumstances?
And again, Lisa gets in the weeds and Mary Beth gets in the weeds, because outside of that are, and it came to light, students who might not be living in Hanson but in the custody of the state.
Right.
We're still responsible as a district to transport that student here, but in a vocational program, it's different because they're not my student. I've never met the student, and I give it to the town administrator who, it's not part of their role. So I think it could be a subset of transportation, a good piece of that.
Yeah, and the agreement maybe, yeah.
Or maybe, provide us with some guidance and some assistance with how to fill out these MOUs for reimbursement or whatever. I'm sure you have people that
Yep.
just, they just bang it out and off it goes. But me, I have to read this 30-page document and figure out what it's saying, and then try and figure it out from Desi, and then Whitman's in the same position. And it's a lot of money.
It is, it's significant.
And, you know, regardless if it's 20 cents on the dollar, something is better than nothing. When you're spending $20,000 on one student for half a year.
So is that okay if we bring it up under a subset of transportation again?
I would think so, because transportation is the one gray area that we seem to
It's not tuitions.
have any.
Tuitions aren't causing you a headache necessarily, it's the
Right.
transportation piece.
It's transportation.
All right, so we'll make sure to include that.
Yep.
And then I'm just going to, under transportation, the cost of pupil transportation, that second paragraph, describes the per pupil method we used previously. So just want to flag that as we're going forward. If we do nothing else, fix that to be the mileage method.
What document are you referring to, Justin?
The 2018/2023, yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's the marked up one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't vote, but I think that if we could get, this is the working document.
Yep.
That anything else that we bring to light would only change, like we would go from this as the basis.
Right.
And I do think that transportation, the aspect of transportation, in all cases,
Yep.
is something that still needs to be discussed.
Can I just ask clarification? You mean now we do the mileage?
So now, now we do the mileage. In this proposed language, it describes the per pupil that we
Right,
used to
so
do.
that's not, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to flag a couple of areas in here where we're, if this were to pass as written, we'd be in trouble.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So I like the idea, George's idea of getting to one place to work from, but I just don't think we can do anything with that tonight, all right?
Thank you. Well,
You have
could,
3 or 4.
Yeah.
You have 3.
You could authorize me to just send it to Mars,
Yeah.
to move forward with this without discussion.
Comfortable with that, Nancy? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything controversial about that.
You never know, I'm just,
Yeah.
We don't.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say you can get a motion for that.
Oh, yeah.
Make that motion.
Sure, okay, just second?
Second
Yeah. All those in favor, I have 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay,
Majority, okay,
Yeah.
we'll send that off.
thank you.
Thank you. So the other pieces, I think that just on the agenda is the Hanson select person issue. A meeting time,
Yeah,
so,
so they're looking at what days, Lisa?
Well, either Wednesday or Thursday. Since Tuesday, Hanson meets almost every Tuesday.
Okay.
So that might be tough, but I don't know, Wednesdays, Thursdays.
I'm unavailable on Thursdays now. I got
can't
Monday,
do.
Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Wednesdays are school committee,
Yeah.
but we can work
But how
around it.
often are we meeting? Like, is it really, do they all have meetings every Monday night? Because there's not a meeting posted tonight.
No, we
So,
don't
like,
meet,
if
but
they
like,
know-
the select board members can't, their schedules don't allow for a Monday night.
Okay. But if, like, my schedule didn't allow for another night, like, I don't know, everybody's here.
Right.
Like, I'm having a difficult time wrapping my head around a voting member not saying, you know what, once a month. I mean, how often are we going to meet? You said 30 days, we might get that back.
Yeah, so we met, it was heavy lifting, I think, in the spring.
Sure.
I don't anticipate weekly meetings.
Yeah.
I think if we get around transportation, it could be 2 meetings that month. It depends on where we get to. But I think all the challenges are out of this with the transportation and the new wrinkle of transportation.
And I just think, like, I'll make my I statements. I knew that this met on Monday nights, and Monday nights I can make my schedule work with my job and my 3 kids, and I don't know, I think it'd be cool and great if a voting member could make their schedule work for us. I don't know, I think with notice, I'm cautious, like, we have a meeting Wednesday, like, we do a lot of our subcommittee meetings for school committees on Wednesdays before our meetings, so we're gonna run into issue there. And we have a lot of them. I think Monday's been the established meeting day, and I don't know.
Yeah, and then,
Yeah. I
I'm
will
just,
say that John, myself, and Jeff last year was Monday was this, Tuesday was building committee, which we seem to meet frequently, and then Wednesday we'd go to school committee. I don't know if personally I can make Thursdays, because I don't know if I want to make them. I'm an old man now, and I'm going to say that. Like, I don't know if I can can make Thursdays all the time. But I would say though,
Yeah. Have they designated someone to represent?
No, not yet. There's no one who could commit to Mondays, so I'll have to bring this back. And
yeah, I just have a thought though.
Sure.
Is it possible that the committee, if they can't meet on Monday, could authorize the town administrator to be the voting member in lieu of a committee? I don't know, I have no idea.
I would take that back as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, that's a good idea, good question.
Yeah.
Is Mike still the
I
I
full-time
don't,
member?
my only problem with that is that Lisa isn't a Hanson resident.
Yeah.
It's not you. I think the
Right.
optics of that aren't good.
Well, don't you think then the selectmen should figure that out?
I do.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I'm
do.
not a member of Hanson either, I'm
Nope.
just saying.
But I do, right? I think that could go down, I think that could end badly.
I think that a person proposing can make a good decision and carry out their duty. I want to say that, Lisa, I think you could work well in that, but I respect what you're saying.
All right. Kathleen?
This is going backwards, this is not continuing this discussion. Did the voting members vote to send this document to Mars to incorporate into this document? Because I have some questions on the response to proposed regional agreement changes.
Yes, so let's go through that.
But we didn't vote to, I don't think the motion was to accept. I think the motion was to merge
Yes.
and then use this one
As a working document.
the working document to make changes from.
So we're not accepting these recommendations?
no.
It's
No,
just-
no.
So we have one packet of paper?
Yes.
to work.
Right, instead of
Five
looking at
different
4
documents.
packets, I thought it was just,
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Because I have some concerns with the actual responses.
I agree. But I want to be clear, that's
You want
great.
to know what they are?
Yep.
Okay.
I'd be happy to hear them.
The first one, I'm just going to throw out there is, from a math point of view, you've got a 10-member school committee. And the first section on representation and the two-thirds vote, is it two-thirds of the people who are present at a school committee meeting requiring 10 members, two-thirds means you need 7 affirmative votes to do anything? Or is it two-thirds, if there's 9 people there, you only need 6 votes? That needs to be clarified. Agreement review was fine, part 2. But under the leases, when it says that we're going to eliminate following language from the current regional agreement, how is the committee going to make major improvements to the schools if you eliminate this language? I'm not arguing it one way or the other, but it actually says that we're going to eliminate the way that the committee appropriates, shall be authorized to make major improvements, and we're talking about that in Whitman not right now, so I have a concern on that. Number 4 was clarified, it went from, the wording was changed, except it should be proposal to increase the number, not reduce,
Right.
from 5,000 to 10,000. Transportation, there's going to be a lot of discussion, and I think that is it. Yeah, in terms of the concerns that I have, but, you can incorporate this, we can have one document to work from, but as long as we're not suggesting that we agree with this, I'm okay with merging the two documents.
Okay.
So do we set a date or not?
So what I would propose is I will get in touch with Mars tomorrow
Okay.
and see what the duration would be to superimpose this document together. I would give them a time frame of 30 days here, so end of October. As soon as I can get a rough date that they can get it to me, so end of October, we're running into town meeting and a vote the following week, right? So town meeting would be on what day?
It's the 30th.
We're October 2nd.
Yeah, we're October 2nd.
Yeah, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking Whitman. So October 30th is you.
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll probably be post-town meeting, since today's the 26th. So if I look at 30 days from there, it'll be the first week of November, give or take. If I can.
November 6th.
November 6th. The week
Since our
of,
vote is the 4th,
the week of Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
So a tentative on November 6th. So you, Lisa, you can go back to your board and
I'll
say
see if
tentatively
somebody
that, if somebody can.
Yeah.
And 5:45 still works for folks, right? Okay.
Can we do earlier? Or
I think,
Is that-
and you had mentioned earlier.
Soccer's over.
Soccer's over.
I have soccer
Are you
practice
okay
till
with
5:30.
earlier?
Anytime after 5, I'm okay with. Have been
Works
forever.
Well for me.
5 works better for us.
Yeah.
Because we're here all day.
Yeah.
Is that
I'm
okay with you,
retired.
Lisa?
Yep, no,
Yeah,
five's
okay.
five's good.
So 5 o'clock is beneficial for us.
Yeah.
So tentative Monday, November 6th at 5 o'clock.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2,
Thank
3.
you.
Got out of here before dinner.